Definitely not. Welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with 2Ps, coming to you live, or at least live on YouTube from St. Louis, Missouri. As always, joined by my co-host from Springfield, Illinois at 30BFF with 2Fs. Dan, what's up?
Oh, just trying to stay awake and get ready for Game of Thrones hype. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everything on social media is, oh my God, Game of Thrones. Or then around here, oh, it snowed after it's been 70 for 2 weeks. God's a Game of Thrones fan. Winter's coming. Ha ha ha. Or, I don't watch Game of Thrones, and I think I need to let everybody know. So
Sounds about right.
Everyone has an opinion. Or something like that. Anyway, super excited about our guest today. We are joined by Miguel Chapeton, I believe. Miguel, you're doing work with Fantasy Headliners now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, pleasure to have you on. We love to get Miguel on, especially during draft time because of his prospect success indicator metric, which usually turns up some interesting names, guys that don't show up on radars anywhere else, turns heads a little bit different directions. So we like to get him in around this time. So Miguel, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you, a little bit about your metric before we cut into the meat and potatoes of the show.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at DynastyGuruFF, and super excited to be on. It's been a long time since we've talked, so glad to be back here talking football with you guys. But yeah, a little bit about PSI. It's really a tool that I created that measures incoming prospects versus the profile of a top 24 wide receiver in the NFL and tells you how closely they relate to that profile. So what we found is that the closer you get to that profile, the more success we tend to see, especially within the top 90th percentile range, where over 44% of the top 24 wide receiver seasons have come. And then guys that come in below the 50th percentile range is accounted for about 9% of top 24 seasons. So very few and far between.
All right. So thank you for coming on. Like you said, it's been a while. I think it's been since NFFC last summer, I think, since we had you on. So I'm glad you're here. Before we go ahead and get started, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, at BeerfieldFF, Facebook, YouTube, Beerfield Fantasy Football. We have merch. I'm modeling a hat today. You can hit us up and get some of that. And we'll be doing a YouTube live episode for the first round of the NFL draft, so be sure to tune in and check that out. Without further ado, so that these guys don't miss the start of Game of Thrones, let's go ahead and get into a beer review. Wait, hold on. Stop.
Beer review.
I don't want a review, I want a preview.
What's fueling Beerfield?
We don't edit. We just fumble through things live, so you're going to hear that drop stutter about 7 times. New soundboard, and it doesn't stop when you hit it the second time. It just starts it over.
That sounds about right.
So,
that's us.
So that's good.
It's been a while.
All right, so today Dan and I are both drinking the same thing. The listener definitely did not send this in because that would be against some laws or something. They did. But we're drinking a Tropical Island Stout from Diamond Knot Brewing Company. Who sent these to us, Dan? Or did not send these to us, rather?
This person named Gary Junt, J-U-N-T, Junt. I totally apologize for butchering your name, or maybe got it right 1 of 3 tries. He did not send us this beer all the way over from Washington.
Oh, we certainly appreciate him not sending us this Diamond Knot. It's an interesting take on a stout from what the description sounds like, so I'm excited to try it and give it a review. So we will hit you with that about halfway through the episode, as per the norm. Let's go ahead and talk some news from the past week.
News.
All right, starting it off with the Golden Handcuffs participants. Leonard Fournette was arrested in Jacksonville on Thursday for speeding and driving on a suspended license knowingly.
Go out and buy them because people are freaking the fuck out about this.
Yeah, the NFL doesn't care about driving on a suspended or speeding or, anything other than except for marijuana and domestic violence.
As long as he's not smoking weed and hitting somebody in the car, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yep. So I'm not worried about it. Miguel, you worried about Fournette at all? I mean, other than the ankle injuries and poor performance, I don't think the arrest does anything to him.
No, this does nothing for me. I mean, it's pretty minor. A speeding ticket, like this is the most ridiculous arrest I've ever heard of in my life. So I'm just, it doesn't help his overall like image, especially with the team and everything that's been going on with him. But of everything that's been going on with him, this is the least important one.
Yep. Not of any relevance to fantasy football, but of relevance to the show because we liked him. Free agent wide receiver Darius Stewart was arrested in Alabama for carrying a pistol without a permit.
Yeah, he done.
He done.
Done.
And then this is from the category of I was amused. Antonio Brown announced he's going to attempt to stop stirring up controversy on social media.
I love what he says he's going to attempt to. Like, he's going to fight himself. He's like, oh, man, I really got to piss off somebody else I used to play with. Oh, I guess I can't today.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't piss this guy off. Maybe I shouldn't take shots at Juju.
Maybe.
All right.
It's like when LeBron left Cleveland.
Yep.
I feel like.
It is. All the pettiness, all the saltiness. Anyway, moving on to roster news and things that actually matter. The Bengals waived running back Mark Walton because, nobody saw that coming after his third offseason arrest. The Dolphins signed Ricardo Lewis to a 1-year deal and running back Kenneth Farrow. Farrow flashed and was good for like 1 week one time.
Was he?
Yeah. I think it was in Arizona when David Johnson was injured. So,
okay.
He's real memorable, I can tell.
Obviously.
Vikings signed quarterback Sean Mannion to a 1-year deal. Compete for Cousins' backup job.
I guess. I didn't know. Did they keep Trevor Siemian? I'm pretty sure.
I don't think they kept Trevor. I don't remember.
I don't care.
They probably have them. There's just camp battles.
Yeah,
honestly, I'm looking over the show sheet of this roster news, and I didn't know any of these happened, for exception of like maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, and half of them don't matter.
I'm really going through each one. I'm like, what? Who the hell? Wow, okay.
Yeah, who the hell? All right. Yeah.
Titans, we care about all the players in the NFL.
We do. Titans signed quarterback Logan Woodside and tight end Keith Tobridge, formerly of the AAF. Woodside will pretend to compete for a backup job. That worked out so well last time.
Yeah.
The Eagles signed quarterback Luis Perez and wide receiver Charles Johnson, formerly of the AAF. Johnson had a cup of tea, I believe, in the NFL with the Vikings for a bit.
He was actually a thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Johnson. Bridwater's first year with the Vikings, and those two flashed a little bit together towards the end of the season.
Yeah. Eagles not exactly a fantastic landing spot, but stranger things have happened. And again, he does have NFL experience and has put together something good. So just be aware that he exists again.
Yep.
He deserves to be on an NFL roster, but he's past the point of really being a thing anymore. But
right,
he's definitely good enough to be in the NFL.
I agree. On to more interesting things. Patriots signed former Jags tight end Austin Seferian-Jenkins. So somehow, once again, ASJ is going to find his way onto hype trains this season, depending on what they do in the draft.
It's going to be overdrafted. As long as the Patriots don't draft any of the top tight ends, he's gonna fly up redraft boards.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The thing is, even if they do draft the top tight end, then he's gonna be a huge value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he could be. I mean we saw how well it worked for the backup tight ends for New England, but
yeah, I mean most rookie tight ends don't do much. So Austin Seferian is going to be a huge value if they sign. They go draft Noah Fant.
True.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. ASJ just became interesting again. I mean, Patriots is a good landing spot, especially that late in free agency.
He's still young. He's still 26 years old. Tight ends take a while. Like this is a really good thing for him.
Yeah, and he wasn't exactly in a great spot for tight ends last season either. So I'm not surprised that didn't really pan out because Jacksonville traditionally has not been good for tight ends.
He's been on bad offenses, I think, since he got drafted to Tampa Bay. Like he hasn't been on a good team throughout this entire time. Yeah, exactly.
He had the chance to maybe sign with Seattle last year, and it would have been a bit of a homecoming for him, and I was rooting for that. And then he went and signed with freaking Jacksonville of all places. Wow.
He just wants to die off in Jacksonville.
They probably gave him more money, but man, career move, that's just bad. I mean, look what Will Dissly did with Russell Wilson. I That could have been you, ASJ. That could have been you.
You were the chosen one.
Nick
You were the
Vinette.
chosen one.
Nick Vinette. ASJ though in Dynasty is probably worth a buy, especially before the hype really takes off. Though I would think, like if you can go buy him on the cheap pre-draft.
Yeah,
Like
especially in tight end premiums or two tight end leagues where where
he's-
you could see.
Mm-hmm. He's only 26. Most people expect the Patriots to take a tight end. Get him before his price skyrockets.
Yep.
All right. Moving along, the Giants re-signed wide receiver Russell Shepard, and they signed wide receiver Sterling Shepard to a 4-year, $41 million extension. So the Shepards are back in New York.
Why give? I just like you sign Golden Tate to what is it, a 4-year deal, 3-year deal, then you sign the same exact receiver, or at least the receiver that plays the same exact position to a 4-year deal. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
It doesn't make sense. It's one of those things like we talked about with Golden Tate where the deal isn't bad, especially for, a receiver that's flashed some talent, but the fit is not good with Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard in the same place.
Yeah.
Lions signed quarterback Tom Savage. That was what the sigh was for because that news doesn't matter.
Yep.
Unless he's on the Texans, he doesn't see the field.
Jesus.
That was funny.
The Panthers have signed former New England wide receiver Chris Hogan to a 1-year deal. That's at least mildly interesting, I guess.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make the team.
Yeah, and neither would I.
That too.
So.
It was only a 1-year deal, so who knows with him. The Jets signed running back Ty Montgomery to their stable of mediocre running backs that might be something.
I mean, they've got Lev Bell. It's not all mediocre.
No, but behind Lev Bell. But that completely kills anything that Ty Montgomery might be either because you're not going to get a below power replacement. I mean,
Elijah McGuire is better than Montgomery. I don't think Montgomery makes the team.
Yeah, he probably
this
doesn't.
might be a depth signing for now.
Can't body just in case somebody gets hurt.
Yep.
And then the Vikings signed wide receiver Adam Thielen to a 4-year, $64 million extension. Finally, something that makes sense.
I love it. He's earned it. And
great for him.
So much for all those the Vikings signed Kirk Cousins and they can't retain any of their star players because I'm pretty sure they've re-signed every single one of them that they want to keep.
Yeah, and that isn't a bad deal either, honestly, for the team or for Thielen. It's pretty soft landing.
Oh yeah.
In injury news, Andy Dalton's been cleared for off-season workouts, so yay if you're somebody that somehow owns Andy Dalton, which I just traded for Andy Dalton. So
I was gonna say I got him in one league, maybe two.
I was in that situation in our listener Superflex league where I had no quarterbacks, none. Like I had Alex Smith, Blake Bortles, and Cody Kessler. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to go get Dalton somewhere, maybe in my Superflex league, just because I love to see him without Marvin Lewis for a change. Like, what does Andy Dalton sans Lewis look like?
He's gonna get you can get him for cheap too, especially in even in Superflex leagues. He's still relatively young and he's flashed at times when he's been healthy.
He has, and that trade that I made, I felt like was good value. It's a Superflex quarterback league. It was Andy Dalton and a fourth, I think, for Ito Smith and Mark Andrews. When I had Mark Andrews, I had so much tight end depth, he was just sitting on my taxi squad. So
that's a great move. I like it.
I thought it was all right, especially since there's no quarterback in Baltimore.
Yeah. Nope, not one.
All right, that's it for the news. Sorry that was a little bit more of a boring news segment. We're kind of in another lull until people actually start getting hurt, or at least the draft
so
time.
did Aaron Rodgers? Did he really play with a broken leg?
Oh yeah, forgot about that tidbit. Yes, Aaron Rodgers had a fracture in his leg from week 1 when he also sprained his MCL. He played the entire season on it.
Oh well, he's not that much of a bitch. That's pretty good.
He's pretty tough, and if you thought that, at least there's a reason for last season. He apparently never was 100% at all, so that explains why it was a down year.
I just don't see why the team didn't want to shut him down and risk further injury to him.
He probably didn't want to be shut down, honestly.
But I know. I know these players don't want to stop playing, but man, that's your future. He gets hurt longer term and ends up like Alex Smith or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
Either way.
I don't either, but I put that in there just so kind of cool anybody that might have been concerned that last year wasn't just an anomaly.
True.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the back half of this draft preview.
Draft preview.
All right, so the way that we're going to do this, we're going to break this into 2 segments. We're going to go through 2 to 3 guys that we each like at the back end of this. This is really to give Miguel a chance to talk about some guys that really stood out with PSI, and then to give us a chance to talk up some guys that we saw that we liked. And then we're going to go into another segment, which is going to be pass, draft, or screw it, why not, which is kind of like kiss, fuck, or kiss, kill, marry.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, kill, marry, whatever you want to call it.
There
I was
you
trying
go.
to keep it PG for the kiddos.
Yeah, sure.
But we'll roll through a list of wide receivers to see where everybody's at, and then maybe give a couple sentences. So, starting off, Miguel, we're going to go ahead and let you start off with a guy that we've talked about a lot on this show that Dan and I are both very, very high on, Stanley Morgan Jr.
Yeah, Stanley Morgan Jr. isn't someone I necessarily love, but I know you guys have talked about him a lot, and that's why I wanted to bring him up on this show. So this is just special for you guys.
Aw.
But he did register. He came in the 55th percentile, so he came in just above that threshold that we look for success. So, you know, there is potential here for him to do something in the NFL and to gain a little bit of value here. He's got a 38% dominator rating. He's extremely athletic. He's got a 4.53 40. He had a 38.5-inch vertical, 125-inch broad jump, so he's super explosive. Came in with very great agility numbers too, and he's strong with 14 reps on the bench. So this kid checks every box athletically that you want to see, and he was very productive. The big knock on him is that he wasn't productive until the age of 21, and that's a deal killer for PSI. I think there's a total of 6 guys who have registered a top 24 season among a group of 300 plus wide receivers prior to this year's class being added in, that have hit that had a breakout age over the age of 21. So the odds are slim for that group. But if you're going to bet on one guy from that group, I think this is going to be the guy that I'm going to do it with, simply because he had such a great dominator rating and because he's also really athletic to go with it. So I'm willing to overlook it.
He also had Tanner Lee throwing him the football for 3 years.
What was that?
I said he also had Tanner Lee throwing him the football for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean that could be it, but we unfortunately that's not something we kind of look for here in this model. But that could be a reason why. At the same time, I'm sure there was other wide receivers on that team that maybe he wasn't beating out. I don't know. I haven't really looked at the team in depth, but you guys maybe might know a bit more about that. So I'm just wondering, a bit of a Riley release situation where you couldn't beat out Javon Wims or Isaiah McKenzie, but everyone still thinks he's amazing, even though those guys got drafted late.
So that was not I can't say that wasn't the case with Nebraska, because I caught on to Stanley Morgan Jr. his sophomore year, and he was their leading receiver sophomore, junior, and senior year. So it's not that there are other people on the team that he wasn't out producing. He was their most productive wide receiver, but that offense was not, especially with Tanner Lee is not an accurate quarterback. So that offense was not really producing a ton at the skill positions to begin with.
Yeah, let me pull up his profile here.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Nebraska's pretty bad offensively. So
yeah, so just to my point, like if I'm betting on the 21-year-old to probably make a little bit of noise in the NFL, I like him. I see why you guys like him.
Mm-hmm.
Just even looking at the numbers, I mean, I've never watched his tape. That's really not my thing, as you guys know, but I can see why he stands out. Obviously, you don't see age on film. His first couple of years, when he was 19 and 20, Yeah, it was very, very low. He didn't really do a whole lot. But yeah, they weren't really big passing offenses. Actually, his freshman year, they had a 3,000 or 3,500 yard passing offense. His sophomore year, it dipped down to 2,700 yards. And then it jumped back up to 33 and then ended at about 3,000 yards again. So it's not like he was in terrible passing offenses.
He just had Tanner Lee throwing him the football, which is never a good thing.
No, it wasn't. He also dealt with some injuries too. So,
his last 2 years there, his junior and senior year, were rock solid though.
Yeah. All right, moving on from a guy that we've talked about a lot, and I appreciate you throwing us the bone there on Stanley Morgan because we do love him. I mean, productivity, he did better at the combine than I thought he was going to do after watching his tape and kind of following him. So we're big on him. But let's move on to a guy that Dan and I were high on after tape review, who we both ended up fading quite a bit after the combine and after his athletic numbers came in. That's little Jordan Humphrey. So, Dan, what do you got to say about him?
Love his tape and just the fact that he's a 6'4" slot receiver. He came in as slightly undersized than what we saw pre-combine at 210, but just love what we saw from him. He's great after the catch. He's a good route runner from the slot position. It's just because he tested so poorly, you have to fade him quite a bit. He posted a 93 SPARQ score, 17th percentile. He posted a 30th percentile agility score and a 27th percentile burst score. So there's not a lot to like from him athletically. It's just when you watch his film, a lot of that didn't really stand out because he was able to dominate, while he was playing out there on the field. Yes, there's only one season of domination from him, but well before the combine, which I don't put all my weight into, there's a lot to like from his tape. So if there's one guy I'm taking a shot on in that third round rookie mock draft or that third round rookie drafts or fourth round, I'll take a stab on a guy who could be productive even though he didn't test well.
Yeah, he didn't test well at the combine. I agree. He was top 10 for us pre-combine, and then we ended up fading him down quite a bit just because of the athletic numbers. 709 3-cone was not bad. That did show up on tape because he's a former high school running back, and after the catch, I thought he had some pretty good footwork. And was strong at the point of contact and as a runner. That he did a good job using his frame, high-pointing footballs, and he had some strong hands. He looked faster on tape than his combine numbers showed also, and I believe the unofficial times from his pro day had him in the 4.6 range, which would be a bit of an improvement, but for a bigger slot guy, you might be able to get away with that. The problem with him is a 6'4" guy who should be able to play outside but doesn't have the athleticism to play outside. You're going to have to try to put a huge guy in the slot. Landing spot's going to matter a ton. So that was kind of my reason for fading tape versus athleticism. I thought there were some concerns with the speed that I saw, at least, and some in his burst skill and his agility.
Yeah. We got a quick listener question here. We'll see if you guys can put your thinking caps on for this one. When was the last time a rookie receiver came in and gave great fantasy production that you guys can think of off the top of your head?
Solid or fantastic?
You just said just gave great fantasy production. I wrote down in our chat DJ Moore was
Calvin Ridley was the top 4 receiver last year. I mean, it was all based on touchdowns, but
DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley from last season were both solid, even though Ridley wasn't week in, week out. Year before that, Cooper Kupp, I believe, was.
Yep, Cooper Kupp had a good year. Even I would say Traquan Smith had a great year last year for being a rookie. It all just depends on what your definition of
that's
rating
true. That's true.
If you're looking for a guy that came in and gave you top 12, like a lot of people think the top 4 wide receivers in this class are going to do, that's the exception rather than the rule for sure. You've got to go back to probably Odell for that.
Yeah, you got to go back to the entire 2014 class, basically.
Pretty much.
Yep. And I don't think this class is as good as that one was, but you're gonna get this. This is a class compared to the last two though that has, 4 Corey Davises, 4 Cortland Suttons, 4 guys that, definitely some reasons to not like some of them, especially DK Metcalf. just because I have to get my shot in on him. But
Yes.
there's raw talent that you can like there, but if you're expecting somebody to come in and be top 12, that's the exception rather than the rule. You do have some guys that could come in and be top 24.
You just need some luck to go.
Wide receivers in general take a couple of years to
Yeah.
grow and be the guy. Very few come in, and when they do, it's amazing. But you've got to be patient.
That there's times like Juju Smith-Schuster also had a great rookie season, but he did it after Bryant went down, and he was able to come in and be the legit number 2 receiver in that offense. A lot of it's also based on luck. We saw with Evan Ingram, tight end who just really dominates as a rookie, was able to be productive his rookie year because of injuries and and then how the offense was able to get him involved. So a little bit of luck involved for these rookie receivers to have good to great fantasy seasons.
Yep, I agree completely. All right, back to the kind of our wide receiver breakdown. Miguel, you have Darius Slayton, so why don't you go ahead and chat about him for a minute here?
Yeah, I actually want to touch on Bill Jordan Humphrey. He actually ran a 4.78 at his pro day, so it was even worse than the combine.
Yeah, was it? Was that the official time? Because what I saw was just some article I hit on beforehand. Like I was, maybe I should go look at that. But
no worries. But with his athletic numbers in general, I mean, the way I look at it, he only tested poorly in 2 spots, and that was definitely his 40 time, and then in the broad jump, which really doesn't matter all that much for wide receivers, but it's probably like the least valuable of all the ones I really look at. So he still tests in the range of in the positive range of outcomes from an athletic point of view, despite a really terrible 40 time. There's a good chance like he could be that like Keenan Allen type wide receiver who also ran in a very slow 40 and has had great success out of the slot. So if he's a good route runner, I'm with you. I'm willing to take a shot at him in the 3rd round, depending on where he falls and how the draft unfolds.
Yep, he is a good route runner, and he does a lot of things film-wise to like. And like you said, it really was mostly the 40. I mean, the vertical was a little underwhelming, but it wasn't necessarily terrible either. It was probably right around average. So
yeah, it's still right there. Yeah, right in the average.
He also gives you some versatility too. He was the punt returner all 3 seasons with Texas, so he at least will find ways to get on the field potentially early on if he locks it onto a team as a punt returner.
For sure.
Right. All right. So Darius Slayton. The reason I want to talk about him is because everyone is in love with Paris Campbell, and no one, or Miles Boykin, but no one talks about Darius Slayton. And maybe you guys can, provide your film point of view if you've watched film on Darius Slayton as to maybe why that is. But from the numbers point of view, Darius Slayton is just as productive as Paris Campbell in college. Both broke out at the age of 20, and he is, nearly as athletic as Paris Campbell. I mean, they share a lot of the same times or numbers in terms of the results, or he's just slightly under, but still in the above average athletic range, like really above average. So I don't really care if he's just slightly under. I just care that these guys are athletic in general, athletic enough. Anything above that is just, icing on the cakes, as they say. So Darius Slayton is someone that I like. If I'm going to bet on the uber athletic wide receiver, I'm going to take the cheapest one possible, and Darius Slayton's that guy. I kind of hope that my Niners draft him to replace Marquise Goodwin because he seems to be a perfect Marquise Goodwin clone. But yeah, he's someone that I'll be definitely paying attention to, and he rates higher than Paris Campbell does at the moment.
I didn't. Dan, did you watch his tape? Because I didn't get around to him.
No, but but I did pull up his player profiler. They don't have his age listed, so you maybe yell at Matt Kelly to get that taken care of if you know.
Yeah,
I got an age on him.
9 entering the entering the year.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, no, he's one that'll probably end up in the post-draft film room. But we kind of ran out of time to watch the 50-plus wide receivers we had listed down.
No worries.
That was just on us.
But yeah, that was my guy.
All right. Dan Emmanuel Hall. This is a guy that I know has caught a lot of hype. He couldn't stay on the field because of injuries. He was good when he was healthy. He had some things to like. So what do you see in him?
Again, another guy that tested extremely well. Even though he didn't run the agility drill, so we don't have a clear-cut spark score, but he posted both a 99 percentile burst and speed scores. The guy has got some juice to him when he's healthy. Second in the class in yards per route run per PFF at 4.14. He also improved himself as a pass catcher, as a deep ball pass catcher, from 63.8% up from the 55.9% in 17. He's got, even though he's got a little bit of a slim frame to him, you know me, I love guys with long arms, 33.25-inch arm length, 85th percentile. Again, with the injuries, that's why he's a lot lower than what he is. And he's not really a threat so much as a returner. I think he's a little bit of a limited route tree, but when it comes to athletic potential and potential in the offense, if he lands in the right spot, there's a lot to love there, because he also posted a college yards per reception career, 22.4, 97th percentile, and a decent to good dominant rating of 35.7%, 69th percentile. So there is a lot of upside to a guy. If he can stay healthy, he could give you some production early on.
Came in at a 7.253 cone is what I had down, which is not necessarily fantastic. He does show
that's bad.
Good release at the line, and some acceleration. He's more of a long strider though, which allows him to get deep, allows him to get behind the defense. But when you've got those longer strides, your agility isn't necessarily going to be there. So he may be strictly more of a field stretcher, which kind of is the reason I have him below guys like Paris Campbell or Andy Isabella.
Oh, sure.
Or other guys like that, because I think he probably is more of a one-trick pony. He does have good size, tracks the ball very well. He showed some ability to work underneath, but it wasn't really a prominent part of his game. And the other thing I noticed also that I didn't like about him from a film perspective is he played exclusively outside on the right side. So if he's going to be anywhere else than right there, he's going to have to learn it at the NFL level, which is not necessarily conducive to getting on the field. And again, mostly a go route guy, like you said. So there's just some things to me that say he's a right side of the field stretcher that has good frame and decent speed, and then from there we're going to have to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emmanuel Hall didn't rate really highly for me. Sorry.
That's fine.
So I've rejiggered this entire tool from last year. So if you were looking at any of the databases from last year, this looks a bit different. I've kind of cleaned things up a bit, made it a little bit simpler. So he comes in at tier 7 for me in the 30th percentile range.
Okay.
That 30th percentile range has accounted for a whopping 3% of top 24 seasons. So not a very high probability of him ever being that guy. I'm not totally in love with him. There's a lot that you guys just mentioned from the film perspective, probably why not to fall in love with him. I didn't have his 3 cone, so I'm going to have to get that from you later, Chris. But just not someone I wanted to like. I really did, but the model doesn't, and I'm just not going to go bet on a 3% guy.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yep. I agree with that completely. All right, I'm actually gonna talk now. A guy that I had written down is somebody I wanted to talk about was Jacoby Myers, and I want to talk about Jacoby Myers because from a film perspective, I thought that he was what a lot of people wanted Keyshawn Johnson to be, and he came in a bit better athletically also. 4.63 40, not amazing. 7.07 cone, that's good. 37 vertical. A little bit above average, still kind of right there in the middle. That's fine. Broad jump was fine. 20-yard shuttle was fine. But there were a lot of things I saw on tape that I liked about him also. He accelerates quick off the line. Thought his routes and his footwork were very, very fluid. He got in and out of his breaks well. He flashed some jump ability, which again goes back to the vertical. Showed some good, reliable hands away from his body, especially catching balls from Ryan Finley, who was not necessarily a great quarterback. he was exclusively a slot guy with a limited route tree. He was more so just kind of doing your over the middle stuff. Not a huge yak guy, so it's going to be more of kind of what I would consider a Cooper Cup type. He did come out last season and put up over 1,000 yards on 92 receptions. So 92 receptions especially is something I like to see. But I think that Jacoby Myers really is an under the radar guy. Not a ton of people are talking about. He didn't do anything amazing or fantastic. He did a lot of things pretty well though. And I think that this here is what a lot of people thought Keyshawn Johnson was going to be.
Yeah, I wasn't as highly on him. I think for me, and you touched on it with his positive, is that he's already a good slot receiver. He led all the class in slot receptions, who's third in slot yards, so it's good to see there. He posted 102.2 spark score, 42nd percentile. Well, it's not great. You don't need to be the most athletic player from the slot, so that's all right. It's just with you touch on a little bit, he didn't do much after the catch, and I would like to see a little bit more from my slot guys, as is he may be a better NFL player than he will be a fantasy player. Just 3.7 yards after the catch per completion, which is pretty low, in comparison to some of these other guys that are projected to be slot receivers in the NFL. Stanley Morgan Jr. was at 5.5. Davis Hill was at 5. Jordan Humphrey, who tested horribly athletically, came in as a 6.9. Samuel was 9.6. So guys like that, I would rather take a little bit more of a chance on. But we understand why he's like that. It's because of how bad Ryan Finley is.
All guys I've got ahead of him. So,
yeah, exactly. And it's not like, if he lands in a good spot, he'll rise up my boards. It's just I didn't fall in love with what I saw. So I don't mind, letting him slip past me.
Mm-hmm.
That's surprising. Yeah, Jacoby Myers didn't rate well for me, kind of entering as I started the database, so it wasn't someone that really jumped off the page. And once he kind of went through the model, he kind of fell in right almost next to Emmanuel Hall. So again, in that tier group that produces 3% of all top 24 wide receivers since 2010. So not an ideal group to be a part of. And from everything you guys say, he's definitely kind of going to be that slot receiver. And this class is full of so many slot receivers that Jacoby Myers just gets pushed down the board.
He does.
I wouldn't be I don't even think he gets drafted.
Hey, have you, off subject here, have you considered extrapolating that out to like top 36? Because top 24, I think especially when I get to this level of my rankings, I'm not looking for a top 24 guy. I'm more looking at somebody.
Yeah, I just posted that on Twitter the other day.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's I actually put it back into my article. I edited my article and added this table in so you can see it. So 30th percentile on down has delivered 2 top 36 seasons.
Nice.
Woo!
Woo!
It's delivered 4 top 24 seasons and it has top 36. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you don't have a lot to go off of there. I mean, you have a whopping total of 6 seasons out of 143.
So, dart throw for sure, especially when you get down to this range. All right. Moving on, let's go back to Miguel for Emmanuel Butler.
Yeah, Emmanuel Butler. First I was going to put little Jordan Humphrey down, but when I saw that he was already on the show sheet, I figured I'd counter with Emmanuel Butler. And the reason is because it's really between him and Humphreys for me. Like, they both kind of come across as that big slot receiver that could be the next Keenan Allen. And the reason I kind of keep comparing him to Keenan Allen is because they both ran over 4.6 40s, which Keenan Allen did the same thing. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see any of Keenan's rest of athletic profile because he was hurt at the time, and that might be a reason why he ran slow too. I don't really remember, but he just kind of fits that profile. I like Butler a bit more because he had that 47% dominator rating. Of course, that was at a smaller school in northern Arizona, but it shows you that the offense could funnel through him, and he broke out at age 19, which is a little younger than Jordan Humphrey. But to be honest, the difference between 19-year-old breakout age and 20-year-old breakout age there's basically no difference. You really kind of just making that jump from 18 to 19 and 20. That's where the big difference lies. So yeah, it's when it gets to the third round, if Humphrey's gone, I'll take Butler. If Butler's gone, I'll take Humphrey. they're kind of one and the same for me. It's funny because they both sucked at the 40-yard dash and they both sucked at the broad jump, but they were pretty much fine in everything else.
Which is fine from a slot receiver, you know. I want
Yeah.
them to be better, you know, in the short area quickness. I want to see better 20 yards and, you know, 3-cone and show good hands and route running. Then I want to see lawn speed because they're not going to do a whole lot of lawn speed.
Butler's 3-cone was a little slow, 7.3, so not ideal.
Ooh,
But,
yeah.
you know, he
We'll
was
see.
so dominant that maybe he overcomes it. You know, the bigger guys in the slot don't need to be so agile.
That's
It's really the shorter guys. It's like your Trent Taylors that really need to be the agile one.
Right.
So I can overlook it because of his size. But yeah, that's why I wanted to bring him up.
All right, now jumping down to some smaller school guys. We're gonna go ahead and tear this down. So I'm gonna go, and then we'll kick to the two that Dan had listed. So I'm gonna talk about Cody Thompson, who played out of Toledo, which is a MAC school, so not a power conference. But he measured in 6'1", 205, which is good enough for outside or the slot. Athletically, 4.57 with a 6.87 3-cone, 19 on bench, 38.5 vertical. 119 broad, 403 20-yard shuttle. You get it. He was average to above average in all of his athletic measurements. A little older. He did have 5 college years. He redshirted, I believe, as a senior. Ended up with 2 senior seasons, basically. So 50 games, over 3,000 yards, though, in that time frame. He had 2 double-digit touchdown seasons, put up over 1,200 yards his junior year, and 4 seasons over 500 yards, including 1 where he only played 5 games. His tape does get better the further back you go. So if you watch this year's tape off of his 2018 season, there were some semi-cobs to him where he was taking plays off, not doing things away from the ball. But then you get back to his junior year, or even his sophomore, or 2017, 2016, which I guess would be his first senior year, and his junior year. Things got a lot better. He showed some good routes. He had an ability to make defenders jump with his footwork and his head work. He doesn't go down easy after the catch. He's not slippery, but he had enough burst to kind of split defenders, especially in zone coverage. A little bit of a body catcher with some drops, but yeah, overall, he's a guy that if I'm in the 3rd or 4th round and I'm looking at somebody that I might want to take a dart throw on with his athletic profile and what I saw on his tape back from, not his senior season or his most recent senior season. He's somebody I'm willing to take a throw at.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch his tape, but as you mentioned, just looking at his player profiler page on here, 90th percentile SPARQ score 123, 75th percentile BOA at 19.7. 16.7 college yards per reception. Would have liked to see a little bit better dominator rating, but they take that into account, his best season plus his final senior season. So a little bit lower than I would like from a smaller school guy, but definitely somebody that I will be taking a gander at as soon as post-draft is done.
Nice. Yeah, Cody Thompson's an interesting one. I actually like his teammates a little bit better. Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, and John Vay Johnson, I believe, were the 2.
Oh, I don't know.
Deontay Johnson, I know, is there.
Yeah. I just put everyone that went to the combine. I don't think that 3rd teammate made it to the combine. But 2017 and then what's it, 2016.
Yeah.
So the thing about Cody Thompson and Deontay Johnson that I just can't get out of my head is that Deontay Johnson was injured in 2016, and that's when Cody Thompson went off. And then when Deontay Johnson came back in 2017, guess who got hurt? Cody Thompson. He only played 5 games. Deontay Johnson went off. And when they were both healthy and both played in 2018, they were both kind of average. They both almost had identical numbers. 49 receptions, 48 receptions, 700 yards, 600 yards, 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns. They split the offense. Neither of them could be the true alpha without the other one there. So the question is can either of them actually be the alpha, or were they just that product of a 1 year where no one else was on the depth chart, so they were just kind of by default the guy?
So one other thing I want to throw out there also is there was a quarterback switch, which does, again, matter, at least to me, from Logan Woodside, who, say what you will, he played in the AAF. He was at least a prospect coming out of Toledo that, caught a little bit last year, to somebody that was more of a run-first quarterback. So I will throw that out there as well for this this past season. That's something that really only showed up on film, but they went from somebody who was a much better passer in those 2016-2017 seasons to more of an offensive switch almost. So
yeah, and the other issue with Thompson is that he's a fifth-year senior coming out.
Yep.
And that's rough.
Yeah.
I don't know how many fifth-year seniors have ever gone on to have success in the NFL. Maybe that's something I should start accounting for. That's definitely not something that goes into the equation. But that's a tough one. So Deontay Thompson is just, or Deontay Johnson, sorry, is just a senior. So
yeah. All right. Now, before we talk about Dan's guys, I want to throw this out here. So, he's going to talk about Ashton Dolan and Trey Brock. And the thing I want to say about them before we get started is if you haven't figured it out, Miguel, definitely more of a stats guy. And there's kind of this thing in the fantasy world where either a stats guy or a film guy, and there's constant arguments about who likes who and whose way is right, whose way is wrong. Well, stats and everything are always available. When we do our rankings at Beerfield, we take film as a baseline, and then we adjust based on what their productivity was, dominator rating, spark score, what they do at the combine, a la little Jordan Humphrey, for example, who was high on film, and then we faded after the combine. We try our best to take everything into account as we rank people, and the problem with smaller school guys is when you're relying on YouTube to watch film, you can't necessarily get that for the baseline. So the reason we don't have Ashton Dolan or Trey Brock ranked right now and won't until post-draft isn't because of anything to do with them, isn't because of anything we didn't like about their productivity or their athletic profile, because Ashton Dolan's is great. He dominated lower-level competition. Athletically, he was fine, but you don't want to rely on just highlight film or whatever to get a feel for a guy on tape either. So we won't put anybody in pre-draft rankings if we don't have that baseline or have the ability to see that. So with that being said, these guys definitely do deserve to be talked about. So let's go ahead and talk about them.
I just asked one question. Who the hell is Trey Brock?
Okay, so I found one. So I'm doing my Ashton Dolan research. I go to YouTube. There's one Malone game. Is versus this team called Hillsdale Chargers, and Trey Brock is another small school guy that's getting a lot of hype. He didn't get combine invite. I can't find any of his pro day numbers. I don't even know if they had a pro day. But you look at his player profile. He posted a 50.2 dominator rating, 95th percentile. Obviously not as high as Dolan's. If you look at his career stats, 40 touchdowns overall. I think 4,400 yards in 4 seasons. I believe he broke out his freshman season. Now, he's not someone that you're going to draft in the top 3 rounds. He likely won't get drafted in the NFL. The reason I'm bringing him up is that we like to highlight these smaller school guys because they were massively productive, dominated the competition they were supposed to. And for me, when it comes to Trey Brock, I want to see what his numbers were in terms of him being athletic or not. I just haven't found him yet. Now, for Ashton Dolan, Miguel, I want you to tee off on him because, spoiler alert, he was your number 1 player in terms of his in terms of your PSI rating for him. So why don't you tell the listeners out there what you love so much about him?
Yeah. So the thing with Ashton Dolan, thanks for telling me about Trey Brock. Yeah, I've literally never heard that name in my life.
That's fine. I know.
I pride myself on knowing small school guys. Like that's kind of my thing. So Ashton Dolan is 21 and a half years old entering the league. So he's coming in super young, which is great. It gives him a nice long runway to develop in the league. He has a 61% dominator rating. And yes, it was at Malone University, which no one's ever heard of. I had never heard of. And now no longer has a football team either because Ashton Dolan left. And so they closed it down.
That's fucking... Is that true?
Is that legit?
They closed it down. I don't know if it's because Ashton Dolan left, but
it's because their school is so. I think they won 4 games in the last 4 years. I think that's why they shut it down.
It would make sense. I saw the quarterback play, and that was terrible.
It was bad.
It was real bad. He was just throwing it up there, and Dolan was just coming out with it.
Exactly.
Which was actually pretty impressive. So, 61% dominator rating, and the reason that number and why it's so big and why it matters is because that's about as high as you're ever going to see. like mathematically, like there's just no way a guy's ever going to come out with like a 70% dominator rate. Like I'm going to be shocked if I ever see that happen. I'm guessing 65% is probably the max you'll ever really see. So 61% is right there. And then he's got an 18.3 breakout age. He's one of only two other guys. He's one of only two guys, period, that went to the combine that had an 18-year-old breakout age, and he's one of three that I have in my model. And then if you want to talk about his athletic measurables, he had a 4.4340, he had a 38-inch vertical leap. He ran a 4.22 20-yard shuttle, and he came in at 7 seconds flat in his 3-cone and put up 13 on the bench. So he's agile, he's explosive, and he's fast. He's got the 4.4340, and he's strong. He's strong enough to help in the run block game. That's what you want to see, and to help off fight off defensive backs on his routes. His side adjusted speed scores 111, and he comes in with a perfect score, PSI of 7. He's the only one who came in with a perfect score. Truth be told, in Kill Harry would have had anyone posted his 20-yard shuttle time. He apparently did it at his pro day, but it wasn't public. Considering he was perfect in every other athletic measurable, it's safe to assume he would have probably crushed that too. So he would have also had a perfect score, but he came in just under as a result of just not having that information. So yeah, Ashton Doolin is the number one value play in the fantasy football rookie draft for wide receivers. I posted my tiers today, and that definitely got some traction and ruffled some feathers with people, as it always does every year. And people are like, "Oh, well, you gonna draft this guy in the first round?" Like, no, I'm not drafting him in the first round. This is just purely on talent. Ashton Doolin deserves to be right there with N'Keal Harry.
You don't have to draft him in the first round, and that's a great thing about it, is because people aren't going to draft him in the first round.
Like, if you look, and going back to the table I was referring to earlier, so guys that scored in the 90th percentile or better, which is in this class, only Doolin and N'Keal Harry. And Justin Christian, who's the other small school guy I just threw in here. But those guys make up 44% of all top 24 seasons. 52 seasons out of 117. So that's by far the highest percentage of any of the groups. And if I'm going to miss out on N'Keal Harry because I don't own the 1-1, then I'm going to gladly take those same odds and apply it to Ashton Doolin and get that in the third round. Like, that's how you use this tool, and that's how you play that in your draft. You can still get similar odds hitting on a wide receiver later in your draft, even if you didn't get the number one guy, which is N'Keal Harry. So love Ashton Doolin. Excited to see where he ends up. He's probably not going any higher than the 5th round. Most likely goes undrafted. But something else I've kind of come across recently is that of all the players that have hit, once you look at after the 3rd round from 4th on out, it's basically the same hit rate. So it really doesn't matter if he gets drafted or not, because he's going to have that same chance anyway. It's a little bit higher if you get drafted, but not by much. Not enough to make me ward off of him, given how productive and how athletic he is.
Yeah. I think he'll get drafted just because of where Justin Watson was and the fact that he got a combine invite. So that's a great start for him. One touch.
There's like physically the most too is Justin Watson, ironically enough.
Yeah. And I'll go back to Trey Brock real quick. He broke out his sophomore season, 77 reception, 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So his breakout age will likely be around 19, depending on how you break up your in-season BOA. There's some articles out there that'll hint to his age throughout. There's just no actual birth date given. So unfortunately, we don't have that either.
Got it. So that's good context to know. For me personally, when you're looking at small school guys, especially the smaller and lesser known school it is, they better be breaking out their freshman year.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to happen. If you're not doing that, you're not getting in. Someone else wanted to, I forgot, there's some kid from Colorado. Forget his name, but he's another small school guy that people have been hyping around. And it's the same story.
Preston Williams or BC Johnson?
Yeah, I don't really remember. The name doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. But either way, he didn't. It's a small school from Colorado, so not Preston Williams.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant actually Colorado.
No. Yeah, he's just a small school kid. It's like he's from the Colorado Miners or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, the point is, the smaller the school, like they better be breaking out their freshman year. Their profile better be perfect.
Yeah.
Like 100% on point for them to matter.
Yep.
Otherwise, they're really not that good. They were good enough to play there, but they're really not good enough to be in the NFL. Anytime you've seen the smaller school guys do well in the NFL is because they were good from day one. And that's what you want to see. Like, they better be the guy if they're going to be the guy in the NFL.
All right. Before we go ahead and get into our little rapid fire game, let's do a beer review because I'm almost out of it.
Let's see here.
Beer review.
All right, Tropical Island Stout from Diamond Knot Brewing Company out of Washington State because they didn't want to, spell out the town name. What do you think, Dan?
It's unique. It's definitely, brighter than what you would get from most stouts. You still get the tropical on the right on the mouth there. I really don't know how I feel about it. It definitely finishes a lot cleaner than what most stouts do.
Yeah, it's very clean. The stout flavor comes out without the harshness, really. There's definitely a lot of roastiness and cocoa and coffee on the front. And then at the end, you kind of get a little bit of a hint of that tropical. But I think the tropical flavor just really makes it lighter and easy drinking. It was different, though. And if there's one thing I like after, 226 episodes in, it's different. So,
yeah. I mean, it's a good beer.
I would drink more of it.
I would too. I actually kind of want more of it. So shout out to Gary for not giving us this Tropical Island Stout.
Yep. Thank you for not sending this to us.
Thank you for not breaking the law.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into a little rapid fire game. I got a few names listed down, and we are going to play draft, pass, or screw it, why not? This is kind of in line with the game Kill, Marry, Fuck. I guess this is no longer PG-13 because that's the second F-bomb I dropped at least. So the draft is for people but the way this is going to go, draft is for people you like and you would target at the right price if available. You may even reach a little bit on them. Pass is, there's no way in hell I'm touching that guy. Somebody else can take him. I'm not falling into that. So like me with DK Metcalf. And screw it, why not? That's kind of for a guy that you might not love, you might not reach for them, but if you get to a later round and they're somehow still there, you're just going to go ahead and bite the bullet on that and take that person because there's enough there to where they could be something, even though you may not necessarily be in love with the pick. So, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to kick this off with a guy we talked about on the last episode at length, Jalen Hurd. Dan?
I'm drafting Jalen Hurd.
Miguel?
Screw it, why not?
I'm more in the screw it, why not phase as well. For me with Jalen Hurd, he shows a lot of good things to like, but he's learning the position still. He just plays the slot. He's going to have to continue to learn it at the NFL level. I see a lot of Cordero Patterson with him, which is better for an NFL team than it is a fantasy team.
Yeah, I think the only reason I like him is because he was really good as a running back, and that just shows me he's a good football player, but he still has to learn the position, and now he's got to learn it in the NFL. Yeah, that's rough, so screw it.
Yep.
All right, David Sills, Miguel.
Pass.
Dan?
Screw it, why not?
I'm a draft on David Sills, but he's kind of my yearly Cooper Cup athletic, I like this white guy award winner. for lack of a better way to put it. So,
that's a great way to put it. He is Cooper Cup light though. So.
He's bigger though too. So and
I
think
bigger.
He tested a bit more athletically, but the hands are a concern. Converted quarterback, so a couple positional converts to start. Deebo Samuel, Miguel.
screw it, why not? He doesn't test well in PSI. I really thought he would. There's every year I get a guy there. I get multiple guys that I thought would do bad, but ended up scoring well, and vice versa. And he was one I thought would do really well, and he didn't. But I know the draft capital will probably be there, and all he's got to do is be a slot receiver. So I could see him having, probably like one productive year somewhere.
Dan?
I want Deebo Samuel and drafted him. Love me some Deebo Samuel.
I'm in screw it, why not? I did not fall in love with Deebo Samuel, but if he lands where the price is right, again, like Miguel said, draft capital is going to be there, then I'll probably take him if he falls to me. Dylan Mitchell. Dan.
Screw it, why not?
Miguel?
Screw it, why not as well? He tests well for me, but that's someone I'm going to be targeting.
I'm also firmly in screw it, why not? I think he had one season where it was massively productive, even though he tested well. I mostly like the tape on him. Emmanuel Hall. Dan?
Screw it, why not?
Miguel?
Screw it, why not?
I think I'm more of a pass on Emmanuel Hall just because that is, as Dan knows from this being the third draft class we reviewed together, this is the type of wide receiver that I say no to. I don't like 9-route speed guys. I hate them. It's the reason I hated Martavis Bryant. I do not like 9-route speed guys. Lil Jordan Humphrey, who we talked about enough, I think that I'm going to take a guess on this one that we're all kind of in the screw it, why not range with Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Pretty much. I mean, I'll still target him because I think he's going to slip just because of how people faded him pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a third rounder for me, and if he's there, great. If he's not, cool.
Yep.
Greg Dortch. Dan.
Pass.
Miguel.
Yeah, even though he rates really highly, I'm gonna pass. I just don't like physically small receivers. Just not my thing.
Yeah.
I'm screw it, why not? And by this point, screw it, why not is like if your rookie draft is 4 rounds, the 4th round for Greg Dortch because he is small. He's tiny. There's enough I liked on tape about him and enough he tested well athletically, but he is tiny. He is like Tavon Austin small.
He's smaller than Tavon Austin.
I just don't see how he's going to play 16 games on any given season, at least as a full-time receiver. So I think he's more of a part-time.
Yeah.
He's too fucking small and 29-inch arms. That's what the fuck, man.
He's got to have an accurate quarterback for that.
Right.
He has to have a very accurate quarterback for that. Like if he lands in New Orleans, I'm all aboard. Fuck it. They need somebody in the slot, like smaller slot guy, not obviously Michael Thomas will do his thing, but
Riley Ridley. Miguel. I think I know the answer for all these. This was just for my own amusement.
It is a hard fucking pass.
That is I will boot him to the guy that'll reach on him in the 2nd round.
I will pay someone to just not have me down.
I will trade somebody to pick 2 draft Riley Ridley.
Like here, you can have it for free. Like I'm passing.
Go for it. Hunter Renfrow, who we have not discussed and we'll probably end up discussing when we go through our rankings because he did make the top 24. Dan?
I believe I'm still a pass on him.
I'm a hard pass as well. Too small, not productive enough. Tiny hands, even though they're sticky hands. He's got great hands for being 7 inches, literally the smallest on record in the NFL since 2010. Not for me.
I wanted to like Hunter Renfrow so much, but I think that I've got to pass on it as well because, again, hand size, smaller receiver. It kind of reminds me a lot of what I liked about Jordan Shipley way back when, and that never materialized. So,
if he goes to New England, I think the whole Twitter will break.
I think it will too.
White guy goes to New England.
Solidifies it for us because Bill Belichick openly admits he sucks drafting wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just know he's bad if Bill Belichick drafts him.
Yep. Keyshawn Johnson. Dan.
I kind of forgot about Keyshawn Johnson, so that likely means he's a pass for me.
Miguel.
He's a screw it. Why not? I liked him early on. He didn't test well athletically, but he's such a sound receiver otherwise that, maybe he's kind of valuable sometimes. But screw it, why not?
Once he has like 2 good games, you trade him to somebody who believes in him more.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
He's a hard pass for me, mostly because I didn't like his tape, and he was every year, a couple of years or so, or every year, I guess, there's guys that people are high on, and I just pray for them to just fail. Kalen Ballage, Auden Tate, etc., just to name last year's couple. And I was so happy when his combine went terribly. So,
yeah.
The next one's an obvious answer, I think, for everybody here, too. Ashton Doolin.
I mean, the ultimate value play, there's no reason why you shouldn't draft him in like the 2nd or 3rd round.
Gonna say, I think you said on your show with Jake from the Headliners that he is starting to creep up into the 2nd round.
Yeah, I've seen that. Then at least within the industry, I'm guessing most home leagues, he's still a 3rd or 4th rounder.
Yeah.
But like the value is there. Like, how do you not just automatically hit draft when you're in the 3rd or 4th round? Your odds of hitting are so insanely low that, again, throw the best start possible. He's the best one on the board.
Yeah, I'm draft for exactly the same reason as well as Miguel just said. It's draft and hope he's of the 44%, not the Krishan Hogan variety.
Yep.
He just tore his ACL.
Yeah.
I want him.
I'm trying to get a helmet signed by Krishan Hogan right now.
Nice.
I was talking with him the other day, and he told me to send over a mini helmet to get signed, so I sent it over.
That's
so we'll see if he ever sends it back.
Nice.
Terry McLaurin. Dan.
Pass.
Miguel.
Hard pass.
He's kind of a screw it, why not for me. I thought as far as Ohio State wide receivers go that he's probably, in 3 years of watching a bunch of people, the best Ohio State guy that I've watched. I guess him and Paris Campbell, just because they're not Curtis Samuel. Is really what that boils down to.
You're getting drafted because you're not Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, but I think that people are so much higher on him than I am that there's going to be no chance that he ends up at a place where I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think when Mel Kiper mocked him in the 1st round, I think people fell in love with him.
Mel Kiper's an idiot, first and foremost.
Well, we all know that, but...
All right. That is it for Draft Pass or Screw It, Why Not? So I felt like that was a good rapid-fire way to get some guys out there and in this show. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll now have a graphic that shows our rankings. And consensus, this is how we ended up. Number 13 was Deebo Samuel. We talked about him last week. Please go back and listen to that show if you want the full breakdown on wide receivers. He got discussed at length, as did Jalen Hurd, who comes in as our number 14. 15 was DeMarcus Lodge. He was also talked about on last week's show, kind of the forgotten guy out of Ole Miss. We've got Little Jordan Humphrey coming in at, I believe, 15. I lost count. And then Emmanuel Hall, Dylan Mitchell, Jacoby Myers, Terry McLaurin. Gary Jennings is a guy we didn't get to talk about. Dan, you want to go ahead and throw some out there on Gary Jennings?
I got to pull up his notes here just real quick. I get another guy who tested very well, 126.5 spark score. He's just a speed guy, so it's probably why you don't like him, because he's just a vertical threat.
Gary Jennings, he was a slot guy working over the middle most of the time. I didn't like him because he couldn't navigate traffic.
Exactly, which is why it's tough. 7.323 cone, so I don't understand why he even played out of the slot, which means that I think he'll actually move over and play on the outside, which could delay any sort of production. So that's why he's this low.
Yep.
Yeah, he checked in the 40th percentile for me. So again, that's another 3% hit rate. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Gary Jennings out of the slot, his work at all. I thought that he showed some speed after the catch and maybe a little bit of agility, but he didn't seem like he was that crisp of a route runner, didn't navigate traffic or position as well as some other guys. And then we got Greg Dortch at 22, Hunter Renfrow at 23, and Keyshawn Johnson at 24. Really, when you get back to these wide receivers that are in the 20-somethings, you're probably not going to draft in a rookie draft. This is the in too deep portion of the show. is when
Somebody
you get back
will,
over that
which
20.
means we don't have to worry about it.
Yep. So, all right, that's all I got, Miguel. One more time before I sign off the rest of this, let people know where they can find you and where they can catch
me
your
on
analysis.
Twitter at Dynasty Guru FF, occasionally with the fantasy headliners on YouTube, and then my blog, which is dynastyguruff.blog.
All right. We appreciate you coming on, as always, to talk about rookies. We'll try to get you on for a division preview episode as well, so you can talk about your Niners. We'll see.
Awesome, man.
We'll see how that goes. But as always, we appreciate you coming on. Dan, any final words or final thoughts? Final words, because you're about to die.
Again, thank you, Miguel, for coming on and introducing to our listeners to PSI. If they haven't caught on to it, go and check out its article. Again, we're going to be live first round of the draft. I believe that's the 25th, 26th, Thursday night. So catch us doing that. We're going to have guys calling in on Google Hangouts probably. So expect a lot of fun there. Otherwise, that's it. Time for Game of Thrones.
Yep, should be a lot of drinking, should be a lot of fun. That was what I was going to hype. Be sure to tune in next week at a time to be determined, because it's Easter and it definitely won't be Sunday for the next episode, is we talk about tight ends and give kind of our final thoughts on this draft class before we actually get into draft week. Thank you all for tuning in. I am at Hot BFF with 2 Ps. Again, you can follow the show at BeerfieldFF on Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube and Facebook. We will catch you guys next time. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah, I felt weird following myself up. Thanks for that, Dan.
You're welcome.